Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And in this one, we've got quite a hot topic. It's going to be what is the best covenant for the balanced druid in Shadowlands, taking into account both PvE, PvP, basically everything available into the game. Which ones do I think are you making a wrong choice? Which ones are going to be the best? Which ones are best in which situation? Which ones are actually good? And we're kind of just low-key, not being noticed, possible legendary synergies and unique builds, and my thoughts on the covenant selection process as a whole with the balanced druid. So if you've been following along with my content, you would probably know that I would recommend the Kyrian for the balanced druid. I think overall this covenant fits into the damage profile of the balanced druid in all content. It's going to provide you significant burst damage through the ability Kindred Spirits. 2.3-second cast, you form a bond with an ally and you will share damage between them. In PvP, you can cast this on yourself and just increase your damage by 15% every minute. This synergizes very heavily in PvP, obviously, with your crowd control solar beam being a 1-minute cooldown, allowing you to prevent the enemy healer from healing, and then activating this to increase your damage by 15% while the enemy healer can't heal. A 1-minute cooldown with this much power in Mythic Plus or PvE in general is providing a significant damage boost to your allies in general. As far as Soulbind conduits, gaining access to Pelagos to get mastery every minute is just amplifying that damage effect further. And in PvP more specifically, Mechanicos is going to provide you a lot of durability against rogues. I would suggest having a Mechanicos build for rogues specifically in PvP. Clea can provide some extra healing. However, after testing the healing on this, it was pretty minor, at least in PvP. It took a while to get the stacks to get high if you weren't already dead with how high damage is in PvP at the moment. In raiding, though, I could see potential strategies depending on how many Kyrians your raid actually picks up, where this healing effect, which is just a safety net, will be able to stabilize you, and you gain benefits of the Vial of Serenity, which there are a lot of bleed effects currently in the Mythic Plus dungeons that if you can remove, is going to be helping out your healer and helping out your group a lot. It's just a well-rounded covenant. I really don't think you can go wrong selecting Kyrian as a balanced druid if that's your worry. You want something that's just well-rounded, fits into the build, works in all content. Kyrian is the one that I would have to recommend. Moving forward, we've got the one that I know a lot of people want to select. We've got the Night Fae, and most importantly, the Convoke the Spirits, which is 2-minute cooldown, cast a rapid flurry of 16 druid spells. More importantly, as balance, you can get full moons and star surges. In PvE, this is a very super fun and awesome build. I think it's in contention in terms of its throughput in PvE. To my understanding, throughput-wise, these Covenant abilities are very close. It's a very minor difference in PvE. So for me, the consideration is a little bit more focused on PvP. But in PvE, this is a very fun ability to press. You just toss out a ton of damage. You are going to own things like Torghast, completely dominate every single pull every time this thing is up. So if you really want an easy time in Torghast, you have to recommend this. Very fun in Mythic Plus, very fun on trash pulls. In PvP, in battleground situations, you're going to have a lot of fun sitting in the backline casting this. You may want to try synergizing up with classes that can provide you immunity to interrupts, as that is the main reason this spell will not be usable in PvP. So things like Paladins have Aura Mastery returning, which provides interrupt immunity and silence immunity to all of their allies. They can also use Blessing of Protection. You combine these two abilities together. The Balanced Druid is now basically immune to all ways of being interrupted. You can go all in. So if you're going to play Night Fae, I suggest making friends with a lot of Holy Paladins so that you can kind of combine your spells together to get this huge flurry of spells off. Very fun in Battlegrounds. Could have some all-in potential in rated arena as well, but Feral Druid benefits a bit more from this in PvP because it will be using physical damage abilities. They can more easily stun their target and prevent it from stopping their Convoke the Spirits. So competitively, I think it is going to fall off and be very frustrating to use, but it's, in my opinion, the most fun ability overall. So if you're not interested in very high rated arenas, maybe more Mythic Plus focused or random battleground focused, this would be my go-to. You also gain access to Soul Shape, which is just added mobility. On top of having things like Wild Charge, you will be very mobile. Typhoon baseline. I love mobility, getting melee off of me. In PvE, it will allow you an instant blink to get out of any bad swirlies on the ground, so there's always that benefit. As far as soul binds go, Wild Hunt Tactics is just always really good. You're going to get 10% damage on targets above 75% health, and you get some healing, and you are able to heal as a balanced druid, and when they're enhanced, you move faster, so Korain and all content seems to be very good. Pod Tender is a cheat death effect. Because PvP damage is so high, you may actually want to try this one out. I think it just got unlocked on Renown 6, so Pod Tender, it'll just be a cheat death effect. When you die, you turn into a seed. I've already seen a lot of plays with this being made, so maybe this is the redeeming factor in PvP and in PvE as well. If you're bad at standing in fire, it's going to save you there. And then Naya on the left is just pretty straightforward, extra stats, maximum health, and mastery to try and balance the Covenant out. And I can see why Night Fae and Kyrian are in hot debate for PvE. In my mind, Night Fae only starts to fall a little bit short at the highest competitive PvP level. Moving forward to Venthyr, this is the one that I had the hardest time figuring out where its place was going to be. Because basically their Covenant ability, Ravenous Frenzy, is a 3-minute cooldown. It's very long. And for 20 seconds, every druid spell you cast increases your damage and healing by 2% and your haste by 1%, and they stack. But if you spend 2 seconds idle, the Frenzy overcomes you, consuming 1% of your health per stack, stunning you for 1 second, and ending. So this is a much more intense version of the Kyrian ability to me, the Kindred Spirits. It's triple the cooldown, but potentially triple the effect if you are able to nail it. And it could have a lot of fun with that Kiss Curse mechanic, but because it has a curse mechanic and a downside, unlike the Kyrian, it makes it a lot harder to pull off. In PvE, this could be a lot of fun, especially with some Incarnation builds to try and max out your stats incredibly high. With the Boat Legendary providing you 50% crit during your Eclipse as well, you could get some insane stat values with it. They did add some PvP safety nets to this ability, where if you get stunned, that would technically be idle, but it's not. It is only if you stop casting spells, so you can use healing, you can move, you can shapeshift, you can always use something to try and keep it going. The main downside in competitive PvP with this pick is that skilled enemies will run away from you during Incarnation, which is when I would recommend you synergize this ability up with. So you will not be able to attack during it. It will be very hard to pull off. But I could see maxing out your stats, this insane Incarn level in random battlegrounds or in PvE being a lot of fun, and juggling that effect. You will gain Door of Shadows, which is more mobility and the benefit of being on the Shadow School. So if you're interrupted, you can still do everything else in your kit as a balanced druid, which is awesome and amazing. Nausea is going to even you out a little bit in terms of your overall stats, providing you haste, so sort of balance you out a bit competitively in all aspects. Theator providing you, again, more stats, as well as versatility deeper into his pool. And Draven will give you the option for defense. And you can see how every Covenant has one that's a little bit more just stat focused, defense focused, or burst focused, to try and balance them out. In my mind, at the moment, Venthyr falls a little bit short for my own personal interest, just because the other Covenant abilities have either really cool synergies, they're just generally awesome, and they don't have the curse effect. Whereas if the curse effect does provide interesting gameplay, when I have to make a choice between 4 abilities, one of them has a negative aspect and the other 3 don't. It's kind of another thing to just be like, But I think that you could make this work, and PvE be pretty fun if you want to try and stack up this sort of enraging effect. In PvP, you also gain the benefit of 25% interrupt reduction, so you can spam cast. Main downside of that is that casted abilities on Balanced Druid in PvP don't really do too much damage, but it could allow you to get some Cyclones out and have some synergies with some Honor talents for interrupt reduction. But in my mind, Venthyr kind of falls to the last place of my own personal interest. But to begin with, I thought Necrolord was actually the worst, and I didn't talk too much about it for Balanced Druid, but having played it because I wanted to play Resto, and then I tried Balance, I've actually been enjoying it a lot. Specifically, you get Adaptive Swarm, a 25-second cooldown dot. The dot itself doesn't do very much damage, but it will buff your other dots on the target, like Sunfire and Moonfire, and then it jumps and it provides you significant healing to your Frenzied Regeneration as well. And I've been actually having a lot of fun with Adaptive Swarm specifically. I don't know if it's just because we've got some, in my mind, I've been enjoying the PvP balance at the moment, much faster paced games than Battle for Azeroth, where we were seeing many deep dampening matches. And I was actually noticing my dot damage be very relevant. I had a lot of fun playing with Affliction Warlocks in PvP specifically. So there's a difference in builds. If you want to be a dot moonkin, a burst moonkin, this big blast moonkin, cooldown ramping moonkin, you have a lot of distinct choice between the covenants. That at first it was kind of like, oh, I'm just going to pick what's the best. But now I'm starting to feel like there are a lot more unique builds specifically towards your playstyle. So if you are interested in more of this dot build of Balanced Druid, I would suggest the Necrolord. It's likely going to fall short in PvE. That will be its main downside. But if you were somebody who wanted a multi-spec resto and you've been playing a lot of resto and you like the Adaptive Swarm, I don't actually think it was that bad of an option to have as Boomkin as well. You'll gain access to Fleshcraft, and with the Soulbind Conduits, Merilith, you will provide crowd control immunity, which actually I get really angry when I get crowd controlled. I don't know if you do, but you can activate Fleshcraft and go immune to crowd control and activate your hardest hitting cooldowns and just be immune. It's really nice, and I've actually been enjoying it a lot. In PvE specifically, you could immune incoming AoE stuns. Maybe you didn't move out in time. Try and activate Fleshcraft to immune it, but it is going to fall a bit short in PvE, and then you're just getting straight stats for Emily and more defense focused with Bonesmith Hyrmir. So overall, I think the Covenants, you're not going to be making anything that's totally wrong. I'd say Venthyr slightly worse in PvP, Necrolord slightly worse in PvE, Kyrian safe pick, Night Fae is the super fun pick, Necrolord for a dot build. You have a lot of legendaries that are going to be super fun with synergies like Circle of Life and Death for your dot build as a Necrolord potentially, or Arcanic Pulsar for big damage burst with your Covenant ability through Kyrian, Time War Dreambender buffing your Star Surge during the Kindred Spirits as well, Balance of All Things buffing your Eclipse damage for maybe that big ramped up Venthyr moment. There's tons of synergies between the legendaries, the Covenants, and a ton of unique builds. I just wanted to run you through what my thoughts are currently of them and help you make your decision, and more so make you feel like you can pick what you want to pick. And I don't think you're going to be at an incredible disadvantage, because that was the main anxiety point for selecting your Covenant in Shadowlands. And I hope I hit the mark with this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please leave it with a like. Do consider subscribing to the channel, as I'm uploading daily if you want to stay up to date with what I'm thinking about the game in terms of selections, so that you know what I'm thinking is the right move, what is the wrong move, so that you don't make the same mistakes I do, because I make a lot of mistakes and I like passing them along so you don't have to live through my pain. You can watch a video and avoid it if that would be the best situation. Again, thank you very much for watching. Follow me on Twitter at Supatease. Follow me on Twitch at Supatease. I'm also streaming every day. And aside from that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.